The biology of the trunkfish. For countless ages, the vast oceans of our world have served as a remarkable testing ground for the process of evolution. Within the depths lies the evidence of nature's countless experiments, showcasing a plethora of strange and remarkable adaptations. Yet it is the majestic coral reef that serves as the ultimate display for these peculiar and awe-inspiring creatures. Among these inhabitants is the spotted trunkfish, or Lactophrys pectoralis, a member of the Ostraciidae family, which encompasses an array of boxfishes, cofferfishes, and cowfishes. Spanning the Pacific and Indian Oceans, the Caribbean Sea, and the southeastern Atlantic Ocean, the spotted trunkfish possesses a remarkable defense mechanism in the form of colorless toxin secreted from its skin glands. Despite its harmlessness when untouched, this toxin can prove fatal to even formidable predators, such as sharks. Growing up to a modest length of 12 inches or 30 centimeters, its body is encased in a network of small hexagonal plates that serve as a shield against potential threats. From their distinctive body structure to their specialized feeding behaviors, trunkfish have managed to captivate the attention of both dedicated biologists and passionate marine enthusiasts alike. There are over 500 species of pufferfish and trunkfish species worldwide. Of all these species, only the spotted trunkfish, Acanthurus maculatus, is found in the Greater Caribbean Region, GCR, an area that is defined by the Caribbean Sea, including the islands of the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, and Florida. All species, with the exception of Lactophrys trigonus, are considered to be of little or no importance to the fisheries of the GCR. This is due to their small size and spines, which are known to cause ciguatera, and general unsuitability for human consumption. Despite this, pufferfish and trunkfish are of great interest to the Caribbean because they are considered to be a large cause of bio-erosion on coral reefs. Anatomy and physical characteristics. It is not widely known that trunkfish lack scales. Instead, the carapace is covered in a thin transparent layer of skin, which serves as protection from parasites and infection. The skin is covered in a layer of mucus, serving various functions such as protection against parasites, pathogens, and predators, reduction of friction during swimming, and the ability to change color to some degree. This mucus is responsible for the foul smell characteristic of trunkfish. The eyes of a trunkfish are well developed for their relatively small size and are positioned laterally on the head. This is another adaptation aimed at increasing the underwater field of vision and ability to detect predators. A notable physical characteristic of the trunkfish is the fused teeth within the jaw, forming a beak-like structure much akin to that of a parrotfish. This is used to graze on algae that grows on coral and other rocks, crushing the substrate into the mouth while using a strong suction force. The trunkfish is an interesting creature to examine in many ways, as its anatomy and physical characteristics are unique in comparison to other species of fish. Trunkfishes get their name from the box-like shape in which their bodies are enclosed. The body of the trunkfish is encased in a rigid carapace composed of fused bony plates, which act as an outer skeleton in providing strength and protection. The only part of the body not enclosed in the carapace is the caudal peduncle. It is upon this region that the fins are attached, providing thrust for the fish's propulsion. The fins are rather small and weak in comparison to other fish, which explains why the trunkfish moves rather clumsily. The shape and size of the fins also vary among the different species of trunkfish. Evolution of trunkfish. Ostracized from the world of angling and sea life collecting as trash fish, by the inflated reputation of the leather jacket, their true worth as both aquarium and food fish is increasingly being realized. Their toxin makes them edible, while they can give a severe sting to the incautious, and even the aquarist must handle his fish with care. The name Tetraodontidae is derived from the Greek words tetra meaning four and odous meaning tooth, a reference to their fused, beak-like teeth, which they use for crushing shellfish and crustaceans. In fact, their bicuspid teeth make an effective tool for identifying species, as each has its own characteristic structure. Trunkfishes and cowfishes belong to the genus Lactophrys and are included in the family Ostraciidae or boxfish. and while bearing a resemblance to their Ostraciidae relatives, are now placed in an entirely separate genus. A remarkable feature of cowfish evolution has been a tendency towards a loss or reduction in the symmetry of the trunk. In lactophores, the triangular body has the left and right sides greatly flattened, and a series of ridges and nodes are also present, producing a striking resemblance to a mass of molten wax. A similar change can be seen in the globefish, where the body is comically inflated and the skin spines have reduced to small bumps. The reason for these odd modifications is unknown, as such drastic changes in postcranial anatomy rarely occur in species. It has been speculated that it is an adaptation to an environment of thickly growing seagrass, allowing the fish to maneuver easily without turning. Habitat and behavior. The trunkfish, the subject of Hippolyte's report, which is being considered, lives in shallow tropical waters, in high lagoons, and among coral growths, typically from 1 to 20 meters in depth. Though it may serve as food on occasion for man, it often eludes the diver and is notoriously tricky to bring to the surface alive. When out of the water, for example, when stranded on a boat, or when its burrow is uncovered, the trunkfish is reported to emit a loud piping noise. Though Hippolyte mentions an account from a certain Persian history involving an aerial battle between two trunkfish and sphex wasps, the present studies have been unable to verify the species of fish involved, and instead focus on the pipework of Lactoria cornuta, the long-horned cowfish, as a fascinating example of sound elaboration in animal communication. The longhorn cowfish is a member of the Ostraciidae family, notable among other things for the peculiar body plan it shares with its relatives. Fused into a solid cubic structure, the trunkfish's carapace has evidently had an important effect on its swimming behavior and communicative abilities. This can be observed when the fish emits sound, a partially voluntary process. Electric discharge between proprietary diploronic muscles is thought to create a twitch in the skull, which causes the fish to knock its neurocranium against the carapace. By rhythmically pulsing these muscles, the trunkfish can knock its skull with varying frequency and intensity, producing sounds over a broad range of pitches and amplitudes. High-amplitude sounds, which range between 300 and 1000 Hz, are often emitted as a warning signal of plans to use its other interesting behavior, its release of toxic oils to repel predators. Reproduction and life cycle. Trunkfish, despite their boxy bodies, have a fascinating reproductive cycle. Unlike some fish that form large schools for spawning, trunkfish are known to reproduce in pairs. During the breeding season, which can vary depending on the species and location, male trunkfish will establish territories and attract females with displays or by preparing nesting sites. Once a pair forms, they will release their reproductive cells, sperm and eggs, externally in the water column. This means fertilization happens outside the body of the female. These released eggs are typically pelagic, meaning they drift freely with the currents. Unfortunately, due to this external fertilization and lack of parental care, the survival rate of trunkfish eggs is quite low. Many eggs will be eaten by predators or simply won't find suitable conditions for development. However, the trunkfish larvae that do hatch are well equipped for survival. They are planktonic, meaning they drift in the currents along with tiny plants and animals. As they grow and develop, trunkfish larvae will slowly transform into their adult boxy shape, eventually settling on the reef floor to take up their herbivorous lifestyle. Conservation status. The conservation status of trunkfish is a topic of immense complexity and concern that has only recently begun to be addressed. Trunkfish and cowfish populations have been ignored by many fisheries scientists and not prioritized by resource management personnel, despite various signs that populations of certain species may be in decline. The issue of conservation, particularly, is worrisome because the relatively high economic value of trunkfish, when compared to other reef fishes, means that once serious declines in population numbers are noted, the damage may already be irreversible. This trend has happened in the past with unicorns and blue tangs in other areas of the wider Caribbean, and there are some indications that it may be happening for some trunkfish species on particular islands. Depletion of trunkfish populations could be problematic for the health of Caribbean coral reef ecosystems, simply due to the fact that trunkfish are grazers and are very often the dominant herbivores, with no other species occupying a similar ecological niche. The effect of loss of biodiversity among herbivorous fish has been shown through research of parrotfishes on Caribbean reefs, whose depletion has led to a shift in dominance from fleshy to calcareous algae, and occasionally to an algal-dominated state with low coral cover. Trunkfish grazing is particularly important in Curacao and some other Caribbean areas because fleshy macroalgae are often dominant due to overfishing of long-spined sea urchins, which are the primary consumers of macroalgae. Transitioning from a stable coral-dominated ecosystem to an algae-dominated state is a potential result of significant trunkfish population depletion on some reefs, with the possibility of loss of resilience and eventual ecosystem collapse. A final concern is the impact of habitat destruction and pollution on the possible future decline of trunkfish populations, as the livelihood of reef fish is so tightly bound to the state of its ecosystem. With many Caribbean reef areas facing fast development, increased tourism, and overfishing, there are several stressors that may reduce the availability of suitable habitats for trunkfish and hinder reef recovery to a state with healthy populations.